Hello and welcome to Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film 28 Years Later, directed by Danny Boyle. So just to start by saying that there will be a spoiler in this review, but at the end I have to talk about the ending of the film. I will give you a warning when this moment is coming. 28 Years Later is, in many ways, a really exciting piece of filmmaking. Visually, it's bold and restless. Boyle is bringing us the third 28 film with a style that feels urgent and visceral. Low resolution footage, inserted clips, handheld cinematography, fractured flashbacks that imprint themselves on the eye like trauma. There's a propulsive energy to the way it's constructed, from the freeze frames to the razor sharp sound designs. This is a film that knows how to grip you. But once that kind of aesthetic adrenaline fades, I have to be honest and say that the film started to feel strangely hollow. Its ideas never quite land for me, and its tone slips uneasily from horror to grief and from satire to sincerity. The result is a movie that's technically impressive, but emotionally and thematically inconsistent. The central premise, an isolated island community, possibly the last safe place left, feels rich with potential. It could have been a laboratory for all sorts of dystopian tensions, survivalism, morality, power. Instead, the film abandons the island almost immediately, sending its characters onto the mainland for no compelling reason other than a teenage boy's need to prove himself. Given how dangerous the rage infected are, how fast, how overwhelming, it's hard to not see this as a narrative contrivance. No sane person would actually go to the mainland just to hunt for fun, especially with a 12-year-old. I think that a smarter film would have trapped its characters on the island and forced them to confront each other, either in zombie or non-zombie form. I thought that the second film in this trilogy, 28 Weeks Later, created intrigue around the introduction of a partial immunity, a human being infected but not overcome. That opened up a new moral territory. Here, there are attempts to expand the mythology again, but not developing that previous idea more. Instead, the infected have evolved. There's a more organised alpha who collects spines and skulls like trophies, predator style. There's the birth of an uninfected child from an infected mother. These are fascinating touches, but I found them a bit too superficial. They gesture at new possibilities for the genre without really exploring them. It's as if the film is caught between wanting to be a thinking person's zombie movie and just another action horror. And then there's the writing and the story. Certain scenes, particularly those involving the Swedish soldier, fall flat, bogged down in clunky dialogue and exposition. And while the final act does take a bold turn, focusing more on loss, illness and memory, it feels out of step with the series as a whole. There is something moving in its shift towards grief, but this felt somewhat flat to me in relation to the apocalyptic horror. The tone becomes muddled. It's no longer a film about infection or survival, but about dying slowly, alone. There's a version of that story that could work, but it doesn't feel like it's here in this franchise. What truly derails the film, though, is its ending. If you haven't seen the film yet, I am now going to talk about the ending, so if you don't want a spoiler, switch off now. I thought the ending was ridiculous. To have a Jimmy Savile reference just feels in really bad taste. This was a change in tone that just didn't work for me. I have to say I was initially baffled why they would do this. I've read online interpretations of it and I guess it kind of makes sense. These kids have grown up watching Teletubbies and Jim Will Fix It out of context, and that's what they think is real life. That's all they know. And they fight like Power Rangers, also something they must have watched. For me, however, the tone of this really feels off. It doesn't feel like satire. It doesn't feel like horror. It doesn't even feel like provocation. It just feels tasteless. And for international audiences who don't know who Savile was, I imagine it would seem utterly inexplicable. 28 years later isn't a complete failure. It's crafted with real intelligence and flair, but it's the least satisfying entry in the trilogy, and I do think it struggles to justify its own existence. There are moments of brilliance here, but they're fragments, not foundations. It wants to be more than just a zombie film, and perhaps that's admirable, but it's hard to shake the feeling that it lost sight of what made the original two so unforgettable. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.